So maybe Bellator's biggest card of all time this Saturday night from the Forum. In the main event, it is the last fight, potentially the last walk for the last Emperor in Fedor Emelianenko, as he'll be taking on the Bellator champion for the second time, Ryan Bader. It's a good one in the main event. In the co-main event, Johnny Eblen defends his middleweight championship against Anatoly Tokov. So that is your co-main. 14 fights in this card for Bellator. It is absolutely stacked. So folks, if you haven't yet though, make sure that subscribe button down below for some more MMA here on the channel. Yesterday we posted our Spivak versus Lewis full card predictions on the channel as well, but let's do it. Bader Fedor 2 from Los Angeles. All right, first fight, Ethan Hughes is going to go right through Yusuf Karakaya here. I mean, I'm not too familiar with the latter opponent here, but I mean, Ethan Hughes is going to go here and win this fight. He's 3-0. He's fighting a guy who making his Bellator debut from Turkey in Youssef. I mean, he's got one win by rear naked choke 4 years ago. I mean, Ethan Hughes is put in the spot to win. The Mississippi born fighter is 3-0 so far, picking up a win in his last fight by TKO in the third round. I mean, he's 3-0 for a reason. He should just be able to go here and implement his wrestling. And I think, I mean, again, the 21-year-old in Hughes, I think is a way better wrestler. I think he's going to go in there, take down his opponent, and get an early TKO finish down there. I mean, this one really doesn't have much to say about it. I'm going to take Ethan Hughes by first round TKO. Another one where it just feels like an easy pick here. Isaiah Hokit taking on his opponent right now here in Peter Ishiguro. I'm not too familiar with Peter, fighting out of Sunnyvale, California. Taking Isaiah Hokit. I mean, I know he had a rough start to his Bellator run. He lost his first fight to Corey Samuels, got knocked down in 10 seconds, but since then, Hokit's been pretty good. I mean, his last win over Nader was huge. I didn't think he was going to win that fight, but he went in there and really put it on Mateus Nader in the second round, won that fight by TKO. His second fight in Bellator, won by rear naked choke in 4 minutes. It feels like this is a fight where, again, Hokit, his striking is getting better. Obviously, you know, the wrestling background at Fresno State. The guy's getting better in there right now. He's got power on the feet. His wrestling game is getting better as well. I like him to win this fight. I think he'll get it done by first round knockout. I don't think this one is all that competitive either. So Darren Caldwell is back. He's going to be taking on Nikita Milikov here, and I think Caldwell is going to lose again. I'm going to take Nikita to win this fight. Caldwell 14-6. He's going to be taking on Milikov, who I know just lost to Enrique Barzola, but that's a tough fight for him. I mean, before the Barzola fight is the reason he was given that opportunity in the wild card round of the Grand Prix. You know, beats Brian Moore in his first fight by unanimous decision, wins his next fight by ground and pound TKO in the third round. He's 2-1 in the promotion. It feels like Milikov's going one way and Caldwell is going the other. I know Milikov, again, just lost his last fight to Barzola, but when you look at Darren Caldwell, I mean, the guy doesn't want to fight in a minute. I know it was against Adam Borch, and considering where Borch is now, and after, you know, he just challenged Patricio Pitbull for the World Championship, there's that, but 3 straight losses for Caldwell is not great. He has not won since January of 2020. 3 straight losses to the likes of AJ McKee, Leandro Higo, and Enrique Barzola back-to-back-to-back. The Higo lost split decision, Barzola TKO in the third round. The McKee fight, of course, was that, I guess they're going to call it a modified neck crank. It's kind of a guillotine, kind of a neck crank. But, you know, Caldwell is not that same guy that he once was back in 2018 when he was the Bellator champion. It's just, I mean, it's that simple. He's not that guy anymore, and it's unfortunate, and it was really those 2 fights, I think, with Horiguchi that kind of just changed the way his career went. But don't get me wrong, he did win 2 fights after that. But when you look at this fight, I think Milikov's able to go in there. I think he's just able to implement his game. I think he can have, you know, in terms of wrestling, in terms of grappling, I think he's got it over Caldwell. So give me Nikita Milikov to win this fight on the feet. I don't think he's that bad either against Caldwell. So give me Milikov to win this one. I like him by decision. Yeah, this one seems a little bit, I would say obvious. We've got Alejandra Lara taking on Diana here. I think Diana's going to win this fight. She's 5-0, of course, fighting out of Russia. Yeah, fighting out of Russia. You know, her last win, good win over Batara by decision. That was, you know, late last year, early last year, back in 2022 in March. She's undefeated so far in Bellator, 3-0. Again, you know what Bellator is doing here. They're trying to push her. She's 24 years old. Lara, I've been picking her recently. She has not been winning. I mean, she has not won a fight since 2019. You know, of course, she did challenge, or no, she did not challenge for Velasquez's championship, but still, you know, she challenged for Elaine McFarland's championship back in 2018. You know, she won 2 fights after losing to McFarland and Velasquez back-to-back, but then beat Taylor Turner, beat Veda Ortega, and then lost to Kana Watanabe by split decision, lost to Deanna Bennett by unanimous decision, lost to Alara Joan by unanimous decision as well. She's not been great recently, and what's to say that she's going to win this fight against a fighter who's undefeated 5-0 and a fighter that obviously Bellator is trying to push in the promotional rankings. So give me Diana to win this fight by unanimous decision. I don't think it's all that close. Laura's obviously going on the downturn of her career while Diana's on the up, so give me Diana to win this one by unanimous decision. Next up, we got Grant Neal taking on Carl Albrektsson here. I'm going to be taking Grant Neal to win this one. I think he'll get it done by submission, because when you look look at the way, Grant Neal's been fighting, this is a fight that is somewhat close, I would say, on the odds. Neal's coming off that win over Christian Edwards by unanimous decision. He lost to Polizzi, but Polizzi's a pretty solid guy considering where he's at in his career. For Albrektsson, of course, 13-4, lost last fight to Carl Moore, and that's where I am a little bit concerned with him. Of course, he was a minus 600 favorite in that fight, coming off the win over Duozan Yagishir by unanimous decision. Of course, you're thinking, okay, he beats Yagishir, a guy who was a former ACA champion, rolls right into a fight that he's supposed to when he's a minus 600 favorite in, and he gets submitted in the second round by a guy named Carl Moore, who, let's be honest, he's a Bellator fighter. He beat Lee Chadwick beforehand, but really this guy, he hasn't been all that active. He fought for the Cage Warriors Championship back in 2018, lost in 15 seconds. You weren't expecting him to win that fight, and he submits Albrektsson in the second round. That just points everything for me to Grant Neal. Grant Neal, again, 7-1, the one loss being to Polizzi. It was a close fight that he lost by split decision. The guy's good at getting fights to the ground, and he's good at getting them, and he's good at winning them by submission. So when you look at everything that comes into play here, I think he's able to outlast Albrektsson. I think he's got better cardio. I think his ground game's better, and I think once Carl gets tired on the ground, Grant Neal is going to take advantage. And I think just like Albertson's last fight where he lost by second round submission, I think it happens again. So give me Grant Neal to win this one by second round sub. Our next fight will be Jalen Bates versus Jordan Lugo. I talked about that fight on the Anderson and Nemkov 2 card in Chicago, so we're just gonna roll that and then we'll get into the fight after that. And the next fight after that. This is a fight though. Jalen Bates, Jordan Lugo is a very good fight for Bellator here at 135 pounds because, again, we talked about it with the first 8 fights. Jalen Bates has basically been on the track that, we're talking about with Brennan and we're talking about all these guys. That's the path Jalen Bates has been on. And now he's, finally going and he's taking on a top 10 guy and he's fighting Jordan Lugo. Jordan Lugo is a fighter who Bellator just had in the Grand Prix, given it was a wild card bout against the guy who is fighting for the interim championship next in the Italian gangster Danny Sabatello. And yes, did Sabatello dominate Jordan Lugo in their fight? He did. But Danny Sabatello, I think, is going to have a very good chance to beat Raufeon Stotts in December, and we'll get to that fight when that fight does show up. But still, Lugo took on a real opponent in his last fight, a guy who will give really this entire bantamweight division a lot of problems. But it's just a big fight, I feel like, because Bates is getting that step up, and he's taking on Lugo, again, a guy who's just in the Grand Prix, who's got wins over Caspel, Keith Lee, Brian Moore in Bellator. And for Jalen Bates, again, he was just running through guys, submission wins left and right to start off his Bellator career, but his last fight gets in a very close fight with Mark Coates. He beats him by split decision, but it's a fight where the man's a minus 900 favorite and a little bit too close to comfort for Bates in that fight. I think this one against Lugo is a little bit too soon. I think it is. I think Lugo's just a little bit better than Jalen Bates is. Again, it's a huge step up for Jalen Bates, right? Mark Coates is a guy who's 10-7, who was, lost 3 out of his last 4 going into the Jalen Bates fight. And now you go from that to a real top 10 guy that Bellator's got in the weight class in Jordan Lugo. I think Lugo's going to be able to limit the damage Jalen Bates can bring on the ground. I think he's going to be able to find himself out of some submissions that Bates might throw up. And I think Jordan Lugo is going to win this one by unanimous decision. I think he'll outbox Bates, and I think he'll find himself out of positions on the ground. And that's why I think Jordan Lugo is going to give Jalen Bates his first ever L. Going to be taking the minus 205 favorite in this one, Jordan Lugo, by unanimous decision. But I'm really excited for this fight. Interesting one. And finally, a big spot in the big stage for Max Rohskoph. Rohskoph, of course, since losing in the UFC in his one and done appearance to Austin Hubbard, has been scheduled for multiple Bellator fights. He was scheduled, actually, I guess it was just one. It was the Mike Hamill fight back in November of last year. Or actually, was it October? I think it was October. But anyways, he's finally here against Chris Gonzalez. And since that Austin Hubbard fight, Max Rohskoph has shown that, okay, he's still pretty good. Rohskoph, really good wrestler. He just had that one really bad fight against Austin Hubbard, whereas, started the pandemic, everyone was watching UFC. He was supposed to win the fight against Hubbard. He was undefeated to the point. He's coming off a win over Zach Zane. People were high on Rohskoph, and he comes in there and loses to Austin Hubbard. He kind of gives up on the stool. He tells his corner to end it, which, again, I honestly don't think it's the end of the world. I don't think it's the worst idea because he was losing the fight. I know he won the first round, but the second round he was getting beat. He was likely on his way to lose that fight to Austin Hubbard. And everyone in the media really just, media members who don't watch MMA kind of just shit on Rohskoph because of that, and it was ridiculous. But now he's back, and he's going to be getting a shot in Bellator. Obviously, he's 2-0 in Cage Warriors since then, and he's going to be getting Chris Gonzalez, the fighter who just ran into Usman Nurmagomedov in his last fight. Obviously, that fight went the way you think it'd go. He got submitted in the first round. But again, Gonzalez is a guy who's not that bad. He's beat some good guys. He lost to Gochi Yamuchi back in 2021. He's an active guy that's always around, so I think it's a very tough fight for Rohskoph. I think it's going to be a really, interesting fight for him. I think he'll still win, though. I think, I do like Rohskoph all around over Gonzalez. I think he's able to, work his striking and get this fight down to the ground and, work his wrestling and work his grappling as well. But I do like this first test for Max Rohskoph in Bellator. But give me Max Rohskoph to beat Chris Gonzalez. Give it to him by unanimous decision. Heavyweight banger now between Steve Mowry and Ali Isaev. Give me Mowry to win this one by first round knockout. Now, again, I just don't know what Isaev we're going to get in this fight. Obviously, former PFL fighter, he's 9-0. His last fight was him winning a world championship with PFL, winning $1 million, beating the Big Show, Jared Rosholt, by TKO in the 4th round. He beat Denis Goltsov before that. He had a really good run in the PFL in 2019. He went undefeated. He went 5-0. It kind of just came out of nowhere to win that thing. Because, he came from Fight Nights Global. He was 4-0 at the time, but goes on a 5-fight winning streak in PFL. He wins the PFL championship, and he's been booked for so many fights since. PFL has tried to book him in the 2021 season. They tried to book him in the 2022 season. I will not believe this fight's actually happening until I see Isaev in the damn ring. I don't know if this is actually going to happen or not. But everything points to a Steve Mowry victory because I don't know what Isaev we're going to get. This guy's been booked for 5 different fights over the span of the last 4 years, and he hasn't fought in one of them. He's been trying to fight for the PFL. He's had to withdraw for some reason, whether it be visa, injury, illness, I don't know, but he has not made it to the cage. He was supposed to fight Jamel Jones, Renan Ferreira, Gilson Abreu, hasn't fought. I'm going to take Mowry. Mowry's 10-0. You look at the way this guy's been fighting. Again, his fight against Moldavsky and in an accidental eye poke, but, the guy's undefeated. He has not seen anyone given of the level of Isaev just yet. Let's be honest, going from Rakeem Cleveland to Isaev is a huge jump. I know Moldavsky would be that guy, but the fight got, it was a no contest. It's a big step up for the guy, but I think he's going to beat Isaev. I haven't seen Isaev in, 4 years? Give me Steve Mowry to win this one by first round knockout. I think the power is too much, and ring rust is real. Give me Steve Mowry to win this one by first round knockout. Okay, we've got Ahmed Magomedov as a pretty big favorite here against Henry Corrales. Again, Magomedov, he should be able to win this fight. Undefeated so far in Bellator, undefeated in his professional career. He's 1-0 in Bellator, 4-0 in Brave. He should win this fight pretty easy. He was booked against Daniel Whiteshow last year. Fight did not happen because Magomedov cannot get to fight night. He's gonna be taking on Henry Corrales here. Corrales, he is winning fights. He beat Aiden Lee in his last one. He won this fight before that. Corrales is a good fighter, obviously. Most known, I would say, for his knockout victory over Aaron Pico, and they gave him Darren Caldwell right after he lost. He lost to Juan Archuleta after that as well. But, yeah, again, I think they're trying to push Magomedov here, obviously, that's what they're trying to do. He looked good in his last fight, winning that fight by a naked choke in the first round. I don't think he'll get a finish in this fight because I do think Corrales is decent enough to the point where he's going to be able to fight off some of the submissions that the Dagestani fighter here in Magomedov is going to throw at him. But, everything points to a one-way traffic type performance here for Ahmed Magomedov, going in there, wrestling the hell out of Corrales, smishing him. Give me Ahmed Magomedov to win this one by unanimous decision, just using the wrestling to his advantage and winning the fight. So it's the second coming here for Lorenz Larkin and Magomedov Berkhamov. We've already seen this fight. It didn't happen because I think it wasn't an eye poke, I do believe. Prediction stays the same. The only difference here, I would say, I'm going to be taking Mukmed to win by submission this time. I picked him by decision the first time around. Or actually, sorry, it was elbow to the back of the head. That's how the fight got ended the first time around. Berkhamov's really good. Look at his wins. Of course, 1-0 in Bellator, just a win over Jaleel Willis. Beat him by guillotine choke in the first round. This guy was a monster over there in ACB. And yes, it was the 3-year layoff, which was concerning going to the Willis fight. But now he's back. And again, he just fought 5 months ago against Lorenz Larkin. They're going to run it back again. Again, Larkin has been on a winning streak. He's been looking pretty good. He's won his last, 5 fights. He has not lost since he fought Paul Daly back in 2017. Lorenz Larkin has been kind of on a roll since leaving the UFC, and it's been really interesting to see because he's 6-2 in Bellator, which is tremendous. Again, because the guy starts 13-0, he beats Robbie Lawler in Strikeforce, he goes to the UFC, doesn't have that much success. Now back in Bellator, he is doing pretty well, but again, when you look at this fight's not set up for him to win. I'm going to be taking Mukmed Berkhamov to win this one by submission in the second round. I think he does get Lorenz Larkin down. I think he finds his back. I think he finds a choke. Yeah, give me Berkhamov to win this one by second round submission. Yeah, I don't think this one's all that competitive, if I'm being honest with you. I know even Gracie has not seen that much success recently. He's been on a dry spell. He's lost 3 of his last 4. And Neiman Gracie had all the hype in the world, I would say, after beating John Fitch, because he retires John Fitch, the ultimate boring fighter. Nothing against John Fitch, really, but that's just kind of what he was known for. He gets John Fitch in a heel hook, Fitch kind of passes the torch, maybe as, but like even Gracie isn't as boring as John Fitch, so, maybe it's passing the torch to bigger and better things. He beats John Fitch, he runs into the ass-kicking machine in Jason Jackson, and he loses by unanimous decision. By the way, what is Jackson going to be doing next? Who knows, because he's going to have to wait for Amazov and Logan Storley to unify the belts, but whatever. He loses to Jason Jackson, he beats Mark Lemminger, he finishes him in the first round, but again, that's what this fight against Schiro feels like. It feels like the Lemminger fight, because it's, all right, Gracie can't beat the top guys, but you got to keep him around, obviously, and now let's give him a guy who's 1-2 in Bellator, in Schiro, who lost to Logan Storley, beat Scotty Howe, and then lost to Luka Postolin in his last fight. Like, yeah, it's a fight that Neiman Gracie should win. It's a fight that he is going to run right through Dante Schiro, and I don't think this one's competitive at all. Neiman Gracie first round submission, he's gonna have zero danger. There's no chance in hell Neiman Gracie loses this fight. It's gonna be a takedown, it'll be a submission real quick, and it'll be a quick night in the office for Neiman Gracie. Getting back on his winning ways. Give me Gracie to win this one by first round submission. Should be a good one now, and I think someone's getting knocked out. Homasi taking on his opponent here, and Brennan Ward. I think Homasi wins this fight. I mean, you look at Brennan Ward, yes, this man has been on a run recently of it's been 2 fights, but since his return, since his 5-year layoff has ended, back-to-back wins. Brandon Bell, again, the guy was 10-10, so that's concerning, and then Cassius Kane, I believe, it's not Kanye, Cassius Kane beats him by second round knockout. He gets to Homasi now, and again, Ward has looked good recently since his return, but yeah, I think Homasi's gonna win this fight. The guy is 17-10. I know he did fight in the UFC, and now he's in Bellator, and he's been looking pretty good in Bellator. Last 5 fights, he's 3-2. Lost to Paul Daly, lost to Koreshov, and then he beat Julio Willis and then Macedona in his last one. Homasi's got power. He goes 0-3 in the UFC. He's got to run into Abdul Razak Al Hassan twice because of a bad stoppage. The first time, so they say, all right, you got to go fight this guy again. He loses the second time. He goes to Bellator. He beats Chris Millender. He beats a couple guys. Now he's in the spot on a main card spot against Brendan Ward. I mean, here's what I'll say. These two guys are going to throw back and forth. Someone's going to get their head knocked straight off in this fight, and I think it's going to be Brendan Ward because I think Homasi's going to find that shot earlier. Give me Sabah Homasi to win this one by first round knockout. First of 2 title fights, we have got Johnny Eblen defending the championship against Anatoly Tokov here. I'm taking Johnny Eblen to win this fight. Again, I didn't think he was going to be Gegard Mousasi, but that fight showed me how good Johnny Eblen truly is. His wrestling is on another level at this point. And it really is. Johnny Eblen is going in there and he is drowning guys in the ground. And will he be able to do the same to Tokov? Time will tell him that. Because Tokov, really good ground game as well. And it will be very interesting because you might get a situation where both these guys are forced to strike. I don't think it's going to happen though, because I think Eblen will be able to get this fight down. I think Eblen will be able to control Tokov if we're taking him by decision. That's likely what we're doing here. I think he's going to announce himself as the better wrestler early in this fight. I think Eblen is able to get a takedown. I think he's able to, impose his game on Tokov in this fight. I know Tokov's got the experience advantage. I know he has not lost so far in Bellator. He has been really good over there. But I think this is the time where he finally loses. He's 7-0, coming off a big win over Abdullah in his last fight. But again, Tokov hasn't been in a spot just yet where he's not a minus 800 favorite. And yes, that was kind of the same effect that Usman Nurmagomedov had going in his title fight against Patricky Pitbull, but that's it's a difference between Nurmagomedov and Tokov. Tokov is running through guys, but he did have a split decision win just a couple fights ago against a guy who's a minus 640 favorite in. Eblen on his run to the championship fought tough guys. He fought John Salter. Actually, that's kind of it, but still, you know what you're going to get out of Johnny Eblen because of the Salter win and because of the Gegard Mousasi win, and I think we know what we're going to get here. I think you're going to see Eblen drown out Tokov. I think he's able to go in there. I think he's able to constantly pressure him with his wrestling. You can miss on 1 takedown, you can miss on 2, but can you stuff the 3rd? Can you stuff the 4th? Can you stuff the 5th? Give me Johnny Eblen to retain his championship. I think he beats Tokov, and I think he gets it done by unanimous decision, using the wrestling to his advantage and winning the fight. Okay, I'm not confident in this pick at all. You can see it on the screen. Yes, Fedor Emelianenko by first round knockout. Okay, I don't know. Okay, Ryan Bader in all likeliness will win this fight, but I will propose to you a reason why Fedor Emelianenko will win this fight. Okay, their first fight, we got to go back to 2019. Bader catches him early. Okay, and Fedor, he's coming off wins over Frank Mir, Chael Sonnen. He had the loss to Matt Mitrione, which is very concerning, but he goes in the Grand Prix and he wins 2 fights against Frank Mir, who's washed up, and against, again, an undefeated fighter in Chael Sonnen, who, though, was fighting, 3 weight classes up, basically, and he beats, Chael Sonnen. And to this point, that is Fedor Emelianenko's longest fight so far in Bellator. It was 4 minutes and 46 seconds against, the gangster from Westland, Oregon, and Chael Sonnen, but he loses to Ryan Bader. He gets knocked down 35 seconds. Okay, that happens. But that was a different Ryan Bader. Ryan Bader has gone through some fights since that first Fedor fight. He's got the eye poke fight against Czech Congo, whatever. He gets head kicked in the face and loses to Vadim Nemkov. He beats Lyoto Machida, who's washed up. He loses to Corey Anderson. He gets knocked down in 51 seconds with an overhand right, similar to the same strike that Fedor Emelianenko was hit with. He beats Vadim Motivovsky, which is a fight where, okay, that Motivovsky was going to win. And then he beats Czech Congo, a fight that we all thought he was going to win anyway. But this is now an older Ryan Bader. This is no longer a 35-year-old Ryan Bader that fought Fedor Emelianenko the first time around. He's 39 now, and given, okay, Fedor is 46. He was 42 at the time of the first fight. But still, it's a different type of fight now. Because Fedor, I think, is that same fighter who's still got power, who can still get knocked out, but he's still got that damn power. Does Ryan Bader still have the chin? I know, again, he took some punches against Motivovsky. He didn't have to eat that much against Czech Congo because Congo's output wasn't that great in the fight that they had in Paris, France. But you know what Fedor's still going to offer. Fedor's game doesn't change at all. Fedor's still that same guy who can get knocked out with the punch that Bader landed, but he can still knock you out like you saw in the Tim Johnson fight, like he did when they fought in Russia, where he's an underdog and he goes in there, he knocks out Tim Johnson with the right hook, right? You know, he knocks out Rampage Jackson, who, I mean, again, that's an old Rampage that we shouldn't really count that fight in Japan, but still, you know, I think Fedor is still that same fighter. Fedor going from 42 to 46 doesn't concern me. But Ryan Bader going, and I say this every time Bader fights, but Bader going from 35 to 39 does kind of scare me a little bit. And I don't know if Bader can still take that same punch like that he took in the first Fedor fight. So I'm going to be taking Fedor Emelianenko. And okay, again, he didn't really take any punches from Fedor in that first fight. But I think this time around, I think Fedor's going to be able to eat some punches. And I think this time around, Fedor Emelianenko is going to knock out Ryan Bader. And I think he's going to put him away. Again, Fedor hasn't fought in, what, a year and a half? The first time around, he just fought 4 months previous against Chael Sonnen. Given Sonnen didn't really hit him with all that much, but the chin is fully healed now. He's 100% for this Ryan Bader fight. It is the last walk for the last Emperor, unless a fight against Francis Ngannou comes calling after this, which I don't know could happen. But I'm going to be taking the last Emperor, Fedor Emelianenko, in his last fight to knock out Ryan Bader on prime time on national television on CBS, and the last Emperor wins the Bellator Heavyweight Championship by knocking out Ryan Bader in the first round. So folks, thank you all for watching our Bellator predictions. Make sure that subscribe button down below for more. Make sure you leave a like if you did enjoy the video. Thanks again for watching, and Mamba forever.